broadcast on Monday Night Live with EntreDot. That's what we call it. So, as promised, in my note to you today, I'm going to talk a little bit about year-end planning. In other words, planning for the coming year. It occurs in the last few months of the previous year. And it just seems to me, with Thanksgiving coming up and then the Christmas holidays, this will be a good time of the year for most small businesses to think about this and gather together with their teams. So I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to go into a lot of specifics, but I'm trying to address the needs of the startup. So it could be 2 or 3 people, the founders of the company, and not many more than that. But what I'm going to talk about also is companies that are much more established, where they've got, several people reporting to the CEO for sales, marketing, development, manufacturing, and HR, and all those kinds of things. So I'm going to mix those two together, but the kinds of things I'm going to talk about apply to both. The manner in which it's done is simply with fewer people. Since if you start up with 3 people, all of what I'm going to talk about is covered by 3 people. If you've got 7 people on your management team, well, they're going to be done spread across the 7 or 8 people. So it's that time of year, But in the large corporate world, if any of you are selling to large companies, their planning starts in October usually. That's my recollection of it, as I was involved in a few corporate planning exercises. And budgets are set by year end. And that's why we start way back in October, because in a large corporation, a lot of annual plans have got to roll up to the top of the company through divisions of the company, for example. So it's got to start early October usually. So let's get going. First of all, let's establish who we're going to have in this meeting to talk about the plan for 2020. The CEO and the people in top positions in the company reporting to him or her. So if you're a small business, it's going to be the founders of the company probably, and maybe 1 or 2 others that are playing key roles like sales or marketing, which would be typical. If you're a larger company, you've got a head of sales, a head of marketing, maybe a head of manufacturing, maybe distribution and warehousing if you're that kind of a company. So there are various positions that have already been established. Probably have a financial guy. If you're well established, you're probably mature enough to have a CFO, and maybe even a person who is responsible for human resources, HR. I'll call it HR from now on. So whatever spectrum you're on, those are the people that should be in the room. This is your top leadership team. The CEO leads this whole darn exercise. He or she is in charge. But his or her role is to make this a collaborative discussion. The CEO solicits opinions and advice and suggested directions for the company. But when it comes down to it, the CEO listens and then decides. That's kind of the way it works. Somebody's got to be in charge. So to take stock of the first task is in this meeting, you're all around the table now. You want to take stock of what was accomplished in 2019, the current year. And each of the executives around the table comes prepared to talk about their major accomplishments for the year, and secondly, the major issues that they're facing going into the following year. So the head of sales would report on sales results, perhaps quarter by quarter, why we made our numbers, why we didn't make our numbers, seasonal things that occurred that were surprises, disappointments with certain customers that didn't continue with us or didn't buy in, and the good news about the many new customers that you acquired. So they slice and dice how revenue came into the company and go a layer or two deeper as to how it actually occurred. As he or she talks along, she raises certain issues that they're going to face in 2020 that we're going to have to address in the strategic plan for next year. Okay, that's the sales report. Marketing person would then say, look, our brand image is greatly improving. We did a survey on that in the early part of the year. We are well known. Our number of users for our product or our online visits has increased from this to this. The click-throughs on our action page have gone up some percent month by month over the course of the year. So he or she is going to report on all the pertinent key performance indicators of lead generation and brand image, and also cite shortcomings that we're going to have to do something about for next year. Now, that very same person could also be the one that watches the market, so would also report on market trends for the year and what we should look forward to next year, particularly if there are any major changes in the market you're working in, or an emergence of new market opportunities that we may want to take advantage of, and make recommendations about that. Again, that same person could also be the one that reports on where we stand against competition and gives an update, maybe to a SWOT analysis that was done recently on the 2 or 3 competitors that you're really worried about. Talk about any emerging competitors that we need to watch out for and do something about. And then suggested things that are going to have to be done to respond to competitive issues in our plan for next year. So that's, in a nutshell, what we talk about in marketing. But notice as I go through this, everyone is going to have some quantification of their progress. If it's not revenue, it's leads, it's the key performance indicators surrounding their marketing campaigns and how well they're doing. So quantitative information, it just don't come in and wing it. In other words, you have to have something substantial. Now, if you have a HR person, someone in charge of people management, or if you don't, probably the CEO reports on this, but how are we doing on people? What new positions did we fill this year? What's been our retention rate? Are there issues with our retention? And for next year, do we foresee having the need to fill certain additional positions or put additional staffing into certain departments, marketing, development, whatever, over the course of the year? So that's predominantly what the HR director or the one responsible for HR would report on. Then it's the CFO's turn, who gives the ever popular financial ratios, cost of goods as a percent of revenue, the gross profit margin, trends in gross profit, net profit before tax and after tax, key deviations from the budget that were approved, that we perhaps have to look forward to next year, increasing the budget for, and any other financial anomalies that occurred during the course of the year that may mean that we're going to have to change our plans and be cognizant of. Now, if you're also a company that makes something that has to be manufactured, then you have a manufacturing person. Or somebody watching a manufacturer that you've subcontracted with. But if you have a chief operating officer, it's probably the person that's keeping track of this. So you have a status report on manufacturing and how that went. Are we meeting our cost targets? Are we getting the quality we expected from this manufacturer. So the manufacturing person gives a similar report and what his or her recommendations are for the coming year. That person also, if it's a COO, is going to report on distribution channels. So manufacturer sends products to a distributor or warehouse, and then through distributors. That's a whole sequence of organizations to actually get a product to a customer that has to be reported on. That in and of itself has all sorts of metrics associated with it. The CFO is going to be concerned about pricing, and will put pressure on pricing to probably increase pricing. It's a position they often take because it helps gross profit margins. So the CFO is then going to report on key issues that we've got to watch out for next year. The more sophisticated companies may invite in a lawyer to speak about regulatory and legal issues that are emerging that we have to be aware of, and then leaves the room. But it's kind of background information. So all of this is preparing the audience. Now it's heard all of this, and the good news and the bad news and the foresight as to issues that we're going to have to deal with next year to go to this next step as a team as well. So the next thing is to decide what actions are you really going to take in the plan. Now, I have separated this apart from this first step, but this step could all be done in one presentation by each of those people all at the same time. So let me cover it. What each of them would then do is make recommendations on what actions are needed. So the sales executive may say, I think we're in a position to grow our sales by some percentage per month for next year. And here's why I think that. And I think a reasonable objective for us is 4% increase month over month through the course of the year, or something like that, which would give us a sales forecast month by month and total for the year of some set of numbers that he would bring in to present at this point. Now, if the salesperson was astute, he or she would have gone to the marketing executive to forewarn him or her that here's what I'm going to say about what we should be doing next year. I'd appreciate your support on increased marketing efforts to get more leads into the lead funnel for us to be able to make those kind of sales goals. So the two of them come in kind of arm in arm, having previously discussed this in preparation for this get-together, that when it's the marketing person's turn to talk, that they talk about increased lead generation by certain campaigns, explains what these campaigns are or how current campaigns are going to be enhanced or increase the Facebook ad budget or the Google ad budget, which will generate some number of more leads and go through the arithmetic of leads turning into engagements, turning into click-throughs, and then turning into a qualified lead or a purchase if you're selling something online. So the marketing person comes to the table prepared to talk about how he or she can increase lead generation and brand recognition as well to help the sales department accomplish new sales goals for the year. And I suggest the meeting start with those two subjects, sales and marketing, as I did in that first section I just got through talking about. I inadvertently left out the development executive. When I talked about take stock of where we are, the development executive should also be in the room and talk about as everyone else did, their accomplishments for the year and new issues that they face, perhaps in product quality or customer satisfaction, new features that are going to have to be considered to deal with the issues that customers are screaming about or asking for, maybe not screaming. But, so the development exec should be next, because if the marketing executive was smart, he or she would have gone to the development executive already and say, look, in order to accomplish the sales goals and as well as the marketing goals, there are certain features or new product add-ons or whatever is appropriate, so that we can be much more competitive. And the development executive would come to the table and say, look, I think, having talked to marketing and have talked to sales, I think the following additional development should be done on product A, B, C, and D. And here's the kinds of things that it's going to be doing. We're going to have to do. And the reason for this is the feedback we're getting from our current customers. So to support the growth of the company, these additional development items should be in our plan. And should go on to say, and I think here's the development expense we're going to need for it, an increase of some percentage. Later, they'll come back with a budget, but not in this initial meeting. So if the marketing executive asked for or suggested another market to get into, now we've got a lot of work to do, because then we've got a whole new marketing set of marketing tasks, a sales channel to create product development. Perhaps there's new products involved. Perhaps current products have to be modified for this new market. Whatever it may be, that's got to be a coordinated effort when you and have that coordination done before they walk in the room for this planning meeting. So you're starting to pick up that behind the scenes, before the November planning get together, some homework was done by them all to get ready for this. That's important to be done. So it's kind of a forewarning a month ahead of time as to when this meeting is going to be. So the development person then reports on these new products and new features to be more competitive or to reach new markets. So back to the HR person who may recommend such things as changes to the compensation plan, the issuance of new stock options for certain people in the company, new and or changed incentive bonus plans for sales or other key executives and people within the company. Perhaps if retention has been a problem, new retention programs that may be needed to retain people. The stock options thing could address that kind of issue if that's what's concerning people. But based upon what this HR person has discovered, comes to the table recommending certain HR programs be included in the plan for next year. Either the CEO or this HR person perhaps gives also a report on additional staffing needs. So that HR person has to do a little bit of homework again, asking the other executive what key positions do they think they need to include in hiring for the following year, across the board in sales and marketing and development and manufacturing and general support, customer support. So the HR person can roll all that up and show a staffing plan that has to be accomplished for over the course of the year. The CFO is going to observe that and crank that and lead the charge on will create a budget for the following year, based upon all of this input. And simply in this second meeting, give his or her opinion on the impacts on cost of goods sold, perhaps the net profit of the company, and talk about actions for expense management to improve the profit margins. So he or she, as the CFO, are going to recommend a number of things to maintain profitability and cash flow, mainly. So in this second discussion within the same meeting, or you have each one of them do it all at once if you want. It's up to you. You've gone through what was accomplished, what the issues were, and then what you're suggesting be done about it. That's a long meeting. That's a day, maybe two. Now, back to the size of your company. If it's only 2 or 3 people as a startup, you could do this whole thing in a day. This is a pretty substantial, multi-million-dollar company with several executives involved. It could take a couple of days. So now you got to set in motion the creation of the plan. You've got all this on the table. The CEO then takes control of the meeting, as he or she has been doing. And in a collaborative way, again, we're doing this as a team. So he's considered all ideas. He, quite frankly, makes assignments right back to each of the principals in the room: sales, marketing, development, manufacturing, HR, CFO, them putting together a plan for their area to come back to the same group of people to review in 2 to 3 weeks down the road. So if this meeting was on November 1st, you say by Thanksgiving, we're going to have another meeting and talk about the individual plans that you're suggesting. He or she would probably turn to the CFO to roll all of this up, because part of it is their request for a budget. And that's got to go to the CFO. He or she's got to prepare what the budget would look like if all of this staffing were to occur, all this other spending were to occur. In this meeting or the next one, there are other items you might want to update in your operating plan. Is a resetting of the statement of your vision and mission. That often remains unchanged, but if you think it's going to change, then have a discussion about changing it. You will certainly take strong attention to the plan for last year, that what you said the plan was, and bridge from it. There's a lot of things you won't have to reinvent that way. So in effect, at the end of this first meeting, we're setting new objectives for the year. So the salesperson goes away understanding that the CFO has approved or modified the suggestions the sales executive made about revenue for the year. Now that sales executive's got to come back with a plan, including the budget necessary, staffing and the budget necessary to achieve it for this new revenue. Same for the marketing person, for the enhanced marketing campaigns that are going to have to be involved. The development executive is going to have to come back with a plan to achieve certain new products or product features. He will leave this meeting here with understanding of what he's got to size and have a budget for, and a milestone plan to achieve over the course of the year. So the CEO goes around the table to sales, marketing, development, manufacturing, the supply chain guy, if that's the CFO, fine, HR, the finance guy, all are going to leave this meeting with a comeback in 2 to 3 weeks with a plan for their functional area that and the budget input to the CFO maybe a week or two before, a week before the next meeting, so it can be rolled up into a whole budget for the year. Meeting is done. So sounds like a lot of work. I'm tired talking about it, but I've gone through these in larger companies. So no matter how large you are, how small you are, you ought to be doing this kind of thing. Of course, the smaller company, the scope is much different. So this follow-up meeting, 2 to 3 weeks down the road, is based on these individual assignments, from established departmental objectives and as needed, in other words, and a roll-up to a company. So a roll-up at the company level can be looked at in the next meeting. So at that next meeting, we're going to see each of the department plans and agree, disagree, find issues with, and that'll take another day. So it's a pretty formal process the larger you get as a company. So I hope that's helpful. That's kind of what you go through, and the scope of it in terms of the topics covered depends on the complexity of your business, the size of your business. So I thought I'd share this with you. This week is the week to give Thanksgiving to all of what's been good for us and the people that we've worked with. So I think it's, for most companies, a good time of the year to say thanks to a lot of people and have your planning meeting, and as a team get ready for the following year. With that, I'm going to sign off and say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Have a great Thanksgiving with your friends and family. I hope it really is a wonderful day for you. Talk to you soon. Again, I'm Bill Warner with EntreDot. Good night.